Hi and welcome to your Pilates by Lisa Introduction to the Reformer program. Today we're learning all about how to set up your Reformer correctly so that everything is in its optimal position for your workouts, and you also learn a little bit about your machine too. We're going to start with the headrest. Now the headrest usually has about 3 positions. You can have it flat, in a mid position, or in its highest position. Now we always have the headrest flat for any spinal articulation exercises. So for exercises such as the short spine, bridges, rollovers, we always make sure that the headrest is flat so we're not putting any undue pressure on the cervical spine. For exercises such as footwork, legs and straps, any abdominal work, we can have the headrest in either the mid or the highest position for comfort. It positions your head correctly. It's sometimes nice to be a little lifted so you can see what's going on. So for anything other than spinal articulation, you can choose the comfort level that suits you for the headrest. Now we'll move on to the straps as well. The length of the straps is really important, and we want to make sure that we get it correct so that all the exercises flow seamlessly and we feel the maximum benefits. Now your straps are adjustable to begin with, but once you get them into the correct position, you want to make sure that you don't adjust them too often. It can mess with the calibration of the machine, and once you have them in the right spot, you should be able to leave them there for good. Now the position that we want to have them in is so that we can hook the loop over the shoulder pad. If there's nice firm tension on the straps and that loop is over the shoulder pad, you should be in that correct position. So we want to make sure we get it there and leave it there unless you're doing any other exercises that may require longer or shorter straps. So moving our way down now to the carriage and the springs. Now the carriage glides smoothly with rollers, and the resistance is determined by how many springs you have on. So on my machine I have 4 springs, and most machines will have 4 to 5 springs with differing tensions. My machine has 2 full springs, which is 2 red springs, a half tension spring, which is a blue spring, and a heavier tension spring, which is a green spring. So most machines will have 2 to 3 full springs, a half tension spring and a heavier spring so that you can adjust the machine to the perfect resistance for any exercises that you do. For exercises like footwork, you'll have maybe 3 full springs and a half spring, or on my machine I like to have either 2 full springs and the half spring, or all 4 springs. So you'll feel as you go along through the exercises which tension suits you for the exercises, and I always explain in all of our workouts exactly what spring tension you should have as a guide, and you can adjust from there. Now with changing the springs, you always want to make sure that you have 1 spring on, the carriage is in completely to the stopper, and then you can just gently hook the spring over the hook and then take the opposite one off. So you always want to make sure that you have at least 1 spring on before you change your springs. You always want to make sure as well that when you leave the machine, you don't leave the machine with no springs on. You always want at least 1 spring on at all times for safety and for control. We don't want the carriage just moving in and out by itself. So always making sure that we have spring tension on and changing the springs with at least 1 on as well. Now moving on to the foot bar. The foot bar is adjustable and usually has 3 or more settings that you can adjust it to. Mine has 3 settings, low to high, and at the moment it's in its highest position. Now I usually keep it in its highest position for most of the exercises. You want to make sure that when you're lying down on the carriage getting ready for your footwork, that you have a 90-degree angle at the hip. The knee should be directly over the hip when your heels are resting on the foot bar, and this ensures that you're in the correct position to perform the exercise. Now when you're performing exercises on the long box or when you're standing on the carriage and the platform, you'll have to have the foot bar in its lowest position. So to adjust the foot bar, you just want to make sure that according to your machine, you safely unhook the bar and move it up and down, and make sure that it's secure before you move on to the next exercise. You don't want it moving up and down whilst you're doing the exercise. So ensure that it's nice and secure, and make sure that you adjust the foot bar to suit the exercise. And as I said previously, throughout all of our workouts, I guide you as to where the foot bar should be, but when you're performing those footwork, remember just to have it in the position that keeps your hip at 90 degrees. Now your reformer should also have a small platform that you can use when we're performing standing exercises such as the skater or the side splits. You want to make sure that when you're performing these exercises, you always stand on the platform first and then onto the carriage. It's the most stable surface, so we always want to stand on that stable surface first and then stand on the moving carriage. When we're performing standing exercises, we always have at least one spring on. So referring back to that safety, we don't want the carriage to be really unstable. We want to make sure that we have just a little bit of tension on for any exercises that we do in a standing position. So safety first, always standing on the platform first and then on the carriage. Your machine will also have a foot strap, and we want to make sure that the foot strap is really securely in position, so make sure that the hooks are nice and secure. And when we have our foot through the strap, we always want to make sure that our foot is dorsiflexed, so we're really pulling the toes back and keeping that hold nice and strong. This is used for exercises such as side overs on the short box and also climb a tree. Any exercises where we're on the box and we need that security and stability. To finish off, I just want to quickly talk about the gears. Now, my machine doesn't have any gears, but some studio machines will have gears 1 to 3 and maybe sometimes even a -1. Now, these are used just in case you have a really tall client, or if you're tall yourself or you're a little bit shorter and you want to find that perfect position for your hips to be at 90 degrees, but you feel like you're too squashed with the foot bar. So you can adjust the gears to make sure that you're in the correct position. So if you feel like you are too tall for the machine, try adjusting the gear down or up a little bit to make sure that you have the perfect positioning and you feel comfortable on your machine. So I hope this gives you a good foundation for setting up the reformer and getting it to its perfect position so that you perform all of your workouts with the correct technique, in the correct alignment, and with that perfect form. Now, let's get ready to work out.